In this lecture, we study a biotic agent for pollination. Before that, we study a abiotic factors or agent for pollination. In that point, we discuss about wind pollination and water pollination. The wind pollination is called as a anemophily and the water pollination is called as hydrophily. After that, we study about biotic pollinating agent. They are nothing but insect, birds, bat and snail. In that 4 biotic agent, we discuss details some biotic agent. In that biotic agent, first of all, we discuss a insect pollination. Before that, all are transfer their pollen from one flower to another. That means 4 agent showing in this picture all are helpful for the transfer of pollens from one plant or flower to another. These also sustain our ecosystem and produce natural resources by helping plant to reproduce. यामध्ये लक्षात घ्या की हे चारही बायोटिक फॅक्टर्स किंवा एजंट हे एका प्लांट पासून दुसऱ्या प्लांटकडे पोलन ग्रेन ट्रान्सफर करण्यासाठी मदत करतात. जवळजवळ 80% पॉलिनेशन हे या बायोटिक एजंट थ्रू होतं आणि म्हणूनच इकोसिस्टीम मध्ये फ्लावर फॉर्मेशन हे पॉलिनेशन साठी होत असेल आणि त्याचबरोबर आफ्टर पॉलिनेशन रिप्रोडक्शन टेक्स प्लेस अँड द रिप्रोडक्शन हेल्पफुल फॉर द सीड फॉर्मेशन. Indirectly, all our agents are helpful for the new plant formation and maintain the ecosystem in nature. So that we discuss a first pollinating agent, insect pollinating agent. Commonly are called as a entomophily. So that they define the terms of entomophily. The pollination takes place with the help of insect called as a entomophily. The example of the entomophily is rose as well as jasmine and another flower. Mostly the insect are honeybee or butterflies are used for the insect pollination or entomophilous pollination. After that, we discuss a adaptation or the morphological changes in the plant for entomophilous pollination. In that adaptation, we discuss about some point. First one, they are large, showy and often brightly in color. आता insect pollination मध्ये आपण काय बघूयात तर इन्सेक्ट पॉलिनेशन होण्यासाठी हे प्लांट कसं लागेल. प्लांटवर आलेली फुलं हे कशी असतील, लार्जर इन साइज, शोवी अँड ब्राईट इन कलर. Insect has compound eyes so that they show easily larger flower and bright color flower, so that in the plant the flower are mostly larger in size and showy or in dark in color, as well as if the flower are smaller they produce in a group. आता यामध्ये लक्षात घ्या की इन्सेक्ट पॉलिनेशन होण्यासाठी प्लांट वरची फुलं कशी हवीत तर साईजने मोठी हवीत तर ती इन्सेक्टला लगेच दिसतील. त्याचबरोबर ब्राईट कलर असेल आणि जर फ्लावरची साईज बारीक असेल, फॉर एक्झाम्पल आपल्याला माहित असेल घाणेरीची फुलं म्हणजे अगदी छोटी असतात किंवा मोगरा, या दोन्ही फुलांमधल्या साईज हा काय असतो, छोटा असतो आणि त्यामुळे ही फुलं ग्रुपमध्ये येतात जेणेकरून इन्सेक्टला ते काय होतील, इझिली विजिबल होतील. यासाठी फ्लावरची साईज आणि त्याचा कलर हा शोवी असतो म्हणजेच लगेच लक्षात येणार असतो. नेक्स्ट वन, The flower produce sweet odor or smell and have nectar gland. Flower has a nectar and fragrance. या फुलांमध्ये नेक्टर्स प्रेझेंट असतात आणि त्याचबरोबर त्यामध्ये फ्रॅग्रन्स म्हणजे चांगला असा वास असतो की जेणेकरून इट इज ए इंटरॅक्ट फॉर पॉलिनेटिंग एजंट और इन्सेक्ट. The stigma is rough due to presence of hair or is sticky due to the mucilaginous secretion. That means the stigma or female reproductive parts of the flower, it has a top portion called as a stigma, and stigma is a bushy region or the hair-like structure present at the top, as well as it is a sticky because of at the time of pollen grains falling down on a stigma, at that time the pollen grains are easily fixed or attached on a stigma due to the presence of sticky substance or sugary substance, as well as it has a hairy structure. Or in pollen grains are spiny and surrounded by yellow sticky substance called as a pollen kit. Pollen grain हे काय असतील, outer wall of the pollen grains called as a exine, and the exine is a rough or spiny structure. Rough or spiny structure are useful for the fixation of pollen grains on stigma, as well as it has a yellow sticky substance for the attachment purposes, and these substance called as a pollen kit. Some plants have a special adaptation for insect visitors. काही प्लांट मध्ये स्पेशल अशी आपल्याला डेव्हलपमेंट झालेली दिसते इन्सेक्ट विजिटर साठी, and it is helpful in a cross pollination. That means for example of these visitors, lever mechanism or turnpike mechanism in salvia. Some plants have flowers, it is a bend or move downwardly so that the insect enter into the flower and the pollen grains stick on their legs or wings. After that, these insects visit to the another flower. Some pollen grains are dusted on these flowers and pollination takes place, so that some plants have special adaptation for the pollination. After that, we discuss about the next type, pollination by birds. Only a few types of birds are specialized for this pollination, and the term of birds pollinating plant called as a ornithophilous plant. And the defined terms of bird pollination, it is nothing but the ornithophily. Ornithophily is known as a pollination takes place with the help of birds, and they usually have a small size and long beak. For the pollination of bird, only few types of birds are responsible for that type of pollination. In this example or in this picture, we show a sunbirds and humping birds. Both are usually useful for the bird pollination. In this type of pollination, development takes place in the flower. First one, flower are usually bright in color, large and showy, like that entomophily. The insect interact or attract towards the color and smell, like that birds are interact with a flower. They secrete profuse dilute nectars. Nectars are flower are bottle shape or elongated in shape. या फुलामध्ये लक्षात येईल तुम्हाला फुलाचा खालचा जो पार्ट आहे म्हणजे ऑल आर द petals are united together or fused together, and these structure are useful for the inserting the beak into the flower. Flowers are generally without fragrance as birds have poor sense of smell. मोस्टली या फुलांमध्ये आपल्याला कोणत्याही प्रकारचा फ्रॅग्रन्स दिसत नाही, कारण बर्ड्समध्ये सेन्स ऑफ स्मेल ही ऍक्टिव्हिटी काय असते, पुअर असते. आणि म्हणूनच यामधले कॅरेक्टर सांगत असताना आपण काय सांगतो, फ्लावर्स आर शोवी, ब्राईट इन कलर अँड लार्जर इन साइज ॲज वेल ॲज दे सिक्रेट ए प्रोफ्यूज डायल्यूट नेक्टर. पोलन ग्रेन्स आर स्टिकी अँड स्पायनी. पोलन ग्रेन्स कसे असतात, स्टिकी आणि स्पायनी असतील, की जेणेकरून ते सहज विंग्सला, बिकला काय होतील, अटॅच होतील आणि दुसऱ्या फ्लावर्स पर्यंत जातील. फ्लावर्स आर जनरली विदाउट फ्रॅग्रन्स because of the birds have poor sense of smell. And last one we discuss about a pollination by bats. The terms of the pollination by bats is a chiripterophily. The chiripterophily plant called as a chiripterophilous plant. The bats can transport pollens over long distance, sometimes several kilometers. We know the bats are generally visit to the flower at night time, and the bats are move or displace with the help of sound reflection, and they move long places or with. So the bats are useful for the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma in several kilometers. The adaptation in a chiripterophilous flower are flowers are dull colored with strong fragrance. In the night time, the colors cannot be visible, so that these flowers have a strong smell, and these smell useful for identify the flowers and visit with the help of bats. Next one, they secrete abundant nectars. Nectars are usually useful for the pollination, and they are easily attached with the help of bat tongue. Flowers produce large amount of edible pollen grains. The pollen grains is used as a food material by bats, so that the bats visit to the flowers for food purpose and easily transfer. Some example of the chiripterophilous plant is a Kadam's tree, Adansonia, and Kigelia. Some are the example of the chiripterophilous plant. All are the type of biotic and abiotic agent for the pollination. After that, we revise all these points. First one, we discuss a biotic agent, wind pollination, called as a anemophily. Anemophily, nothing but the pollination takes place by wind. And hydrophily, pollination takes place by water. In that type, we discuss two types, epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. Epi means above, hypo means below. The pollination takes place below the water surface, called as a hypohydrophily, and the pollination takes place above the water surface, called as a epihydrophily. Some adaptation takes place in both type of pollination. After that, today we discuss about the birds pollination, called as a ornithophily, insect pollination, called as a entomophily, and bat pollination, called as a chiripterophily. आता यावरती प्रश्न कसा विचारला जातो? गिव्ह द एक्झाम्पल ऑफ ईच टाइप ऑफ पॉलिनेटिंग एजंट किंवा राईट ए मॉर्फोलॉजिकल अडॅप्टेशन फॉर ॲनिमोफिलस, Animophilus, hydrophilus plant, entomophilus plant, etc. And after that we discuss about some outbreeding devices in next lecture.